Dr. Eric Finzi has been described as a modern-day Renaissance man, a board-certified dermasurgeon. Dr. Finzi runs 2 dermatology practices near Washington, D.C., and devotes much of his time to treating patients with skin cancer. But he's also an expert artist whose medium of choice is epoxy resin, a highly toxic material that has caused the deaths of some artists. Dr. Finzi recently invited the full-frame cameras into his medical practice and his artist studio for a rare glimpse at the intersection of art and science.
Everything that you do, whether it's me making art and working on a face, or whether I'm working with someone on their face in real time, they all cross feet. I was trained as a bench scientist. Before I actually started working with patients, I actually worked in the lab. I did biochemistry experiments, and that was very formative because I'd be at the bench and designing experiments and working with some dangerous chemicals and dangerous viruses. As a scientist, you do experiments. So when I started making art using this epoxy resin, I instinctively kind of combined the science with the art because it just came natural to me, because that's what I had been trained in. You wear this mask because epoxy is incredibly dangerous stuff, not in the short term, but in the long term it's killed a whole bunch of artists. So if you go back to the 1960s, you see that a lot of these artists who worked with epoxy, and they would just work with it, no protection, nothing, breathe the air. Well, they all wound up getting, some kind of cancer or liver disease or brain disease. They all died young. I realized very quickly that, okay, this is something I need to take very seriously. And I started treating the epoxy the way I treated some dangerous viruses that I worked with in the lab. It's different. This epoxy resin has its own intelligence. And so when I'm painting, I kind of go a little bit with the flow of the temperature, and that influences the chemical reactions, because ultimately my paintings are about chemical reactions. So I mix these 2 components, and it's a resin and a hardener, and it sets off this chemical reaction, and then it's on a clock. So once I start the process, I don't have forever. I might have a couple of hours. I have to leave it alone. And I'm not really sure what it really looks like until I come back the next day. Because of the way the resin moves and flows, that all becomes part of the history of the painting. And if you look carefully at my paintings, you'll actually see the history. It was a few hours after I finished painting it, everything finally came to a quiet, peaceful stop, and that's it.
Who are you here to see today?
I'm here to see Dr. Finzi.
Okay, have a seat and we'll be right back. Thank you.
Hi, Mary.
Hi, Dr. Finzi.
How are you? So good to see you.
Thank you.
How have you been?
I've been well.
I treat everything with the skin. Anything that can be done in an office setting under local anesthesia, I will do. So that might mean surgery of a skin cancer. It might mean using a laser to get rid of a blood vessel. It might mean using a different laser to get rid of a brown spot, or a laser to shrink skin, or sculpting somebody by taking their own fat from part of their body and putting it back into their face to maybe restore their cheekbones that disappeared for whatever reason. It's been itchy, and that's part of your body trying to get rid of it. It knows that there's something a little bit wrong. My scientific work in medicine started in art. I was working on a series of paintings of mental hospital patients from the 1880s. Riveting pictures of their faces, strong facial expressions. You just see the angst in their brow. You can't help but you look at this picture from the 1880s and you're just wowed, like, wow, something's gone here. So I got really fascinated because of working on these paintings about this woman called Augustine. I've made a series of paintings of her, shows about her, and Augustine had this very expressive face. So I started then reading about mental illness from the 1880s. I could have never predicted that because I was working on a painting of a mental hospital patient, that I'm ultimately going to do research on depression. I'm a skin doctor. What right do I have to work on depression? And the answer is, I don't need a right. Why do you need a right? Why do you have to confine yourself to one field? How is that good for humanity? How is that good for you as an individual? You should empower yourself to utilize all of your tools, all of your talents, and all of your interests, and they all cross-feed and help each other. If I just keep my eyes open and think, then hopefully I can contribute something to helping to alleviate human suffering through research and through being open to new ideas. For me, the key is think hard and long about just doing everything you do with integrity so that it's just part of you, even if it's an unconscious part of you. That to me is the most life-fulfilling activity you can get. That's why I fundamentally love research. And my art is a kind of a research.
That's it for this week. Join the conversation with us on social media. We are CCTV America on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. All of tonight's interviews can be found online at cctv-america.com. And let us know what you'd like us to take full frame next. Email us at fullframe@cctv-america.com. Until then, I'm Mike Walter in Los Angeles. We'll see you next time.